Smiling?
He won't be, Andy.
You're not?
Yeah, he will not be, right?
As far as I know, he will not be here.
Okay. What? Sure. Yeah, you will come.
We're good, Ashley? We're good.
Okay, call this meeting to order.
Times?
6 o'clock.
Thank you. A roll call, Director Green?
Here.
Director Davis?
Here.
Director Beatty?
Here.
Director Smiley? Not here. Director Sangster?
Present.
Okay, I need a approval of special meeting agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none.
Director Davis, will you lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item, discussion and approval to allow Vitalent to use the San Miguel Fire Station for a blood drive.
Good evening, directors. Suggested action is to approve Vitalent to use the San Miguel Fire Station for a blood drive. And Vitalent's Blood Services has conducted multiple blood drives at San Miguel Fire Station located at 1150 Mission Street, beginning in 2022. At the July 24, 2025 regular board meeting, Vice President John Green requested a policy be written requiring a waiver and release of use of district property, in addition to requiring board approval of use for district property. Vitalent has reviewed the attached waiver and release for use of district property and is waiting board approval prior to signing. So suggested action be approved use and the waiver.
Thank you.
Do we have legal present?
She's on the there.
Yeah, I'm here.
Can you turn it this way? One more?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Oh, there you go.
Can see it?
I'm just curious, I didn't request this item,
No, you did not request this item.
nor did I request what Mr. Young just referred to, about use of district property. That was entirely on you requesting. You said that it had to be done. Wasn't
I
through
have
my...
brought up that the district does not have a use of district
That's right.
property policy,
Okay.
and therefore, in order for use to occur, either it has to be approved on an item-by-item basis,
Right.
or a policy needs to be adopted for a process to be put into place.
Right. And what I'm not understanding is how my name got put on it. And how it got approved that way.
At the July meeting, you did bring up that you wanted agendized a policy for district use of property,
that
and
was-
you did not want property utilized.
That was you, that discussed that. We had a discussion by phone, and you said that we need to do that, we have to do that.
You are correct.
Okay.
And then I believe at the
All
July
right,
meeting.
I just
you
wanted to get
brought that up and
clarification on
requested
that.
it.
I thought I was losing my mind.
You are not.
Thank you. She's the first one to say that.
All right.
Not in this matter.
Do we have any other board comment or questions? Board comment or questions?
I have a question. Is this the only one that they're going to be conducting?
Currently?
Is this the only one scheduled?
Currently.
Currently scheduled, yes.
Yes.
Okay, because I was going to say, if there's going to be another one later in the year, we should take care of that as well.
Well, the intent is to bring back a policy that covers all normal uses of the district facilities. So this is relatively time sensitive, since this would be taking
Okay.
place on the 11th. Since we were already scheduling a special meeting, it was put onto this meeting
Okay.
to make sure that we could have it before the board before.
So I see the notices on Facebook. Is it the Firefighters Association that's hosting this, or is it the fire department? Is it the C.S.D. fire department? Who exactly is the host? Is it, I guess it'd be the C.S.D. if we're approving this? Would that be correct?
The fire department is hosting it, but it's part of the CSD, so the
Right.
CSD board is.
Right, okay. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile.
Absolutely. I wouldn't know if I didn't have chemotherapy.
Yeah, I appreciate it coming to the board, and I think it's a great opportunity to do something for the community, so much appreciated.
I wish I could participate.
Any comments, Director?
I just got one question, and it's for Scott. Scott, you had on your report here, that was just an outline of the contract that the Vital has to sign. It wasn't signed.
As the staff report says, Vital is waiting for board approval prior to signing the document. They have it, they received it, they reviewed it, and have legal did the preparation on the document.
Okay, that's fine. No, I don't have any problem.
Okay, any further from the board? Any public comment on this item?
Quick question.
Yeah.
I understand this is a for-profit organization and not a non-profit.
Oh. By talent?
Yes. Am I wrong? So if this is a for-profit organization, does that mean that other for-profit organizations are going to get to use the fire station for some reason later? I don't know. Does that make a difference?
They sell the blood,
They do.
but everybody does, don't they?
Well, we used to have a nonprofit blood bank in San Francisco. They were taken over by a for-profit organization, and they've been for-profit ever since.
Well,
As far as I know.
I just got two units and I paid for it.
They sell it it's not cheap.
No, it's not.
No, it's not cheap. No, that's all I asked, if there's a issue there. Thank you.
Well, that's a
Good question.
That's a very good question.
Any other public comment? No?
Scott, can you answer to that?
I'm looking it up. It was my assumption that Vital was a nonprofit organization, being that they're a benevolent organization, but they are large, so I guess they have staff. And I'm looking at their website right now, but I can't find it at sentence notes.
Vital's on the website says that they're one of the largest nonprofits.
Says they are a nonprofit.
It says they're a nonprofit blood and biotherapies healthcare organization.
So that's good enough for
I'm assuming
me.
nonprofits do sell things to keep in business.
Okay.
We have their nonprofit documents.
Oh, I don't know. Apparently it's just a statement on their website.
Would that be part of the contract?
Well, I'd say it's kind of late in the game. I would say this is going to be a one-time deal because we're going to come up with,
Because we do require nonprofits, I hate to speak out of turn, like, we do not require nonprofit organizations that want fireworks permits to provide their nonprofit status. I would think that other people that can be nonprofits in the district for benefit would have to provide their nonprofit documents also. It's just a matter of them handing over their nonprofit documents, easy day.
I would concur with that.
I don't know that it can occur in this instance, but.
Well, I think that any future application for this would definitely require them to show that. But if they're advertising it on, I mean, people don't post lies on the internet, so.
Any other board comment or a motion?
Was there any other public comment?
We asked for public comment, there was no other public comment.
Well, now that we have other public comment.
Is there any other public comment? There's none. Back to the board.
So real quick, they are 501c3.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry to interrupt.
I would motion to approve. I can second that.
So a motion by Director Sangster, second by Director Beatty.
Roll call vote. Director Davis?
Yes.
Director Beatty?
Yes.
Director Green?
Yes.
Sorry. Director Sangster?
Yes.
Passes 4-0, 1 absent.
Okay, moving on to the next item, discussion of employee public exposure at Machado wastewater treatment facility. Discussion only.
So this item was asked to be brought back for board review regarding the safety of employees and public at the wastewater treatment plant, being that that's our district office. Predominantly, the treatment plant is managed through the State Water Resources Control Board, which manages the operations there. The office staff would fall under Cal OSHA or the district policies. So Cal OSHA basically, we don't need to go through everything, but basically requires us to have an IIPP, which is an injury and illness prevention program, which we do, and to make aware any staff that's there of any potential hazards that they may encounter while being at the facility. As I mentioned, we do have an IIPP that was just recently updated, and we do have regular conversations with staff going over the hazards of the treatment plant, hazards of, just the nature of a treatment plant. Obviously, we have slip, strips, and falls, which is everywhere. Normal activities of the office staff would fall under Cal OSHA. They don't have really any duties outside of that would necessitate them being in contact or direct contact with any machinery or liquids or any operations per se. But again, we do go over those with them. We make them aware of what the consequences of, coming in contact with the equipment or coming in contact with the wastewater or, going into an area that they're not familiar with or trained to operate in. So all that is provided for our staff. The public, although they do come into the office, they are kept to the parking area or the office space. They're through chain link fence and guard gates. They're kept in those areas. Although they're not all made aware that it's a treatment plant. I mean, it's pretty evident that it is a treatment plant. The fencing is there to keep them in their space when somebody isn't watching them. So far, we have not had a problem with anybody trying to go in a place that they couldn't be going. So I'm not sure what else you guys want to discuss on this matter.
I don't want to speak for Directors Green and Davis, but I think that the primary concern was airborne contaminants.
Everything I've read is pretty dark.
Well, there is obviously airborne particulates in that area. I would hazard a guess that the airborne particulates created by dust from the riverbed or dust by wind blowing off the hills is probably more dangerous to you than the particulates coming out of the wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, but the difference is one's nature and one's man-made. And we're responsible for the one that's man-made.
That's partially true.
That's
nature
true.
In this area, we have a lot of natural contaminants, asbestos, uranium, valley fever, that are all natural that will kill you. There isn't a high link to being exposed to airborne particulates from a wastewater treatment plant to any known illnesses, really. I mean, it is possible. Nobody's going to say that it's impossible.
Well, I'm concerned about a 20-year employee.
I've been here for 20 years. I'm not dead yet. Might be close.
Are you doing any air testing at the plant?
So we don't do any air testing at the plant. It's not part of our permit to test.
It's not required by anybody?
And depending on what, air testing is very situational. Generally, any sort of mitigation to an airborne particulate is really as part of a vector control to keep flies and other insects in. And that's generally due to sludge drying, not necessarily liquid management. So we don't do that right now. That's not required right now. It might be required in the future, but as far as I know, our future permit, or the tentative future permit for the treatment plant won't require it.
Is there any sort of air quality testing required for any larger scale treatment plants? Are we not mandated or required to do because we're a very small plant?
Size really isn't the driver. It's basically if you're creating a situation where it's becoming a problem. So if you're doing something operationally and it's creating a attractive nuisance for vectors, flies, insects, whatever, animals, then you have to mitigate that. But in normal operation, you could have a treatment plant treating hundreds of millions of gallons a day without any sort of air treatment at all.
Okay.
What about all the trucks that we have coming in and out and stuff
What
that we're
about,
not testing?
what do you mean we're not testing?
Well, we have trucks that come in every day that,
Septic?
Yeah, the waste, hauling waste,
Septic.
yeah.
So we do test the material that comes out of them. We don't test every single truck. We test sampling of them.
but that's splashing into the pond when you're dumping it.
So it's going into a pool, and then that pool is draining into the pond. So they're not splashing it all over. That's not in an area where anybody besides the operator is going to be affected by it.
The truck operators.
The truck operator.
We don't have anybody standing there with them.
So we have operators that are there to gather samples, but again, they're trained operators with
Right.
proper protective gear.
Right, okay.
Well, that kind of leads to my question also. I've seen trucks out there, there's nobody out there except for the operator, and there's no protective, they aren't wearing protective equipment or anything, they're just dumping their stuff into that blue tank you have there.
Right. So
Are we liable for them if anything,
they're liable by their agreement with us for what they do there. They're liable under their own employment. Their employer is liable for them for what they do. So if their employer is not providing them adequate protective equipment, then if they get hurt, that's the first place it's going to go, is to the employer. If they die or something, then maybe it'll eventually come back on us partially, but it's still the employer's responsibility.
If we were negligent in something.
If we were doing something negligent and caused their death or caused their injury, then
That's the discussion, right?
Have we had any complaints from any of the neighbors in that area, the treatment facility? Entrance of the wastewater treatment facility in that neighborhood right there?
So we had a complaint from one neighbor that lives behind the block wall next to the treatment plant. But the time of their complaint and what they were reporting is the normal smell of the treatment plant. We did have a request by the property owner at the corner of 16th and N to mitigate the dust because they didn't, basically we were dusting out their car every day when we were going in and out. So we did mitigate the dust, we treated the road so there's virtually no dust anymore. But other than those, I haven't had any other complaint.
I've seen some anonymous complaints on Facebook.
Well, I can't act on complaints from Facebook. Those are the ones that call our
Anything
office.
anonymous either.
Yeah, those are the complaints that we received at our office. And the one that was living, or that I think he's moved at this point, but he lived behind that block wall. We worked with him to try to figure out when exactly he was having that odor in his yard and when he wasn't. And based on what he was reporting, it was the normal operation of the treatment plant, especially when we were doing doing maintenance on the aerators, and the aerators would be off. When it initially pulls material up, it's got a little bit more of a smell to it. And that's basically lined up with what he was reporting.
Okay. I got just one. Have you had any complaints from Oneida with them sewer trucks running back and forth?
So we don't all go down Bonita. We actually only had, when we first were doing it, we had a complaint from one of the neighbors that lived on Benedict about them driving too fast. But they were using the access road in the back, so.
The easement?
Yeah. So we haven't had a problem, and we've made it very clear that they need to go 5 miles an hour on the dirt road and, you know, pay attention to the speed on the paved roads.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from the board? Any public comment on this item?
So we've identified that there are hazards at the plant, but they're so low that they don't hurt anybody. So first of all, shouldn't the board know what those hazards are specifically? What information is being passed out to the public and the employees that's been identified as a hazard? And what's the level that it's legally supposed to be at to be so low that it's not going to affect everybody? So that we'll know when we're not that low and we are affecting people. I think the board should look at what's being given out to the employees, see if it's adequate, see if it has any triggers in it that say, okay, if this happens, then we need to look at this again. Or if it's just based on anonymous complaints, then we might go 5 years with an exposure on something and never know about it. So I don't know if the board has not seen these documents or these programs or these certifications, like maybe a sheet that says who saw those and who signed on them. So if an employee comes back later and says, I never saw that stuff, you can at least say, hey, get your signature on here and say you saw 25 pieces of paperwork on this date, and this is what the paperwork said, and this is how the paperwork outlined these 25 different hazards, and these 25 different hazards were identified as lower than the identified hazards that were on the paperwork. So there's a trail there. I haven't seen a trail. There might be one. I'm sure there is. Kelly's a pretty efficient guy. But has the board seen that trail, and have you verified that? That would be my next guess. Have a great day.
Any other public comment? No? All right. Yep.
I had written a question down. What are the warnings you provide to the employees?
So the operators are under different operations than the office staff. Which one are you referring to?
I know
They can't go over.
They have special training and equipment, so I'm primarily concerned about our office staff. Excuse me.
So, number one, everybody's trained for the tools and equipment that they're supposed to be using. We have, for the operators, obviously they're using equipment and all that, so they're trained on everything that they're normally in contact with. The office staff, our major problems are ergonomic, so how they're sitting at their desk, you know, the type of chair they're using, the type of mouse they're using. Other than that, you have slip, trips, and falls, which we're trained on. Backstream, we're trained on. What you're probably mostly after is how they interact with the site itself. So all of the office staff is made very well aware of what to do if you come in contact with water or wastewater, where to go or not to go, and what can happen. Let's say if you get too close to the pond for whatever reason and you slip in, what to do. Basically to stay away from there in the first place, but what can happen if you do go in there. Everybody's made aware of where they need to go in the case of emergency, where all the exits are, where the fire extinguishers are, who to call. told is based on the office. Other than being in the office, they go between the office and the shop. They're made aware of potential hazards in the shop area where tools could be, people could be working. But other than that, that's where they're supposed to stay. We have one office person who takes a walk around the lower part of the pond, or lower part of the treatment plant, and she's made aware of all the hazards that are out there. We know when she's going out there, so we know when to expect her back, and we can make sure that something, she didn't get hurt or something on her walk. Obviously, you can't cover every last thing that could possibly happen, because that's a near impossibility. But all the normal occurrences that could happen, or the things that are likely to happen, we discuss with staff several times a year. In reference to the IIPP, that's something that when it's updated, it's provided to all the staff, and we sign saying that we read it and we understand it and that we received it. Just the same as all of our safety goals. So, it's hard to go over each individual thing. I'm not really sure what else we can describe.
Well, to Mr. Campbell's point, is there something you have on file for each staff member that works treatment plan in the office, that information was conveyed to them about the hazards of the site that they have agreed to?
When you were reading this, you even stated that the employees are given they're provided a warning. That's why I wrote the question, what are the warnings that you provide? It's got to be more than just the sign on the gate.
Well, what I just described was what was discussed and what is their quote-unquote warning.
We're talking about office staff.
Right. And that's what I was referring to.
Do we keep SDSs on all the chemicals that we use?
Yes.
We do have, correct? And it is, all the employees have access to that?
Yes.
Anyone who comes to the treatment facility asks for it, we can show them to them?
Yes. So, if you would like, we can develop a more specific hazard analysis for each individual location, and they can sign off on it. It'd basically be restating what we already tell them, but it'd be a more formal acknowledgement on the employee's part.
Put it in the injury policy.
Yeah, I think that it's, if it was covering the specifics for working in the office at the treatment plant, which is different than working in the office, for example, at the firehouse, I think that would be probably in the district's interest, for sure.
Yeah.
I think they should have been left right where they were.
Well, there is hazards at the fire station as well. So,
Not everyone.
yeah, airborne too.
From what?
From patients, from the carcinogens coming off of firefighting equipment. You're not safe anywhere in this world.
Should we say these sheets on?
It's not equivalent to a sewer plant.
I don't know how much of bloody people going in there.
Live, that's right. And the engine bay, you take them in the office with you?
No, they come in.
Well,
Front door.
really? All right, they don't call 911, they just come in?
They come in, yes.
So,
When our district office was at the fire station, people would just come in.
that's perfect, thank you.
Any other discussion?
No, it's just for discussion right now.
Yeah.
We can do a little more research on it on our own. I don't want to be a bummer, but I don't think you should have an employee walking the fields. There's plenty of places for people to walk outside of the plant, but that's on you.
Well, is there any other questions?
Any questions? All right, moving on.
Public comment
We did public comment.
on the comments that you made?
We have one public comment.
Okay, I was going to just say, I would hope the board would ask for the documentation that each employee reviews and signs when they It's in their packet, it should be in their employee packet. So we briefed them on all these things, you acknowledge we briefed you, that would be a real indicator of what people are told versus being told by the general manager that they're getting a verbal, you have no idea what he's telling
Yeah,
them.
but I've already asked for them to
Like,
select.
but he says to develop it.
Yeah.
He should have it already available.
It doesn't exist, so we have to formalize
See,
it.
there it is. It doesn't exist, that's the problem.
It doesn't exist.
So we're moving on. Discussion on alternative locations and options for the district. Discussion on.
So again, did you have a comment?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
So this item was asked to be brought to the board for options for relocating the district office. This was when we discussed the board action items. This was one of the ones that was number one, along with the potential exposure at the treatment plant. So there's a couple different options. Just a little history. We moved to the treatment plant to vacate the fire station, to allow the fire station to operate as a fire station, as we were taking up predominantly all of the office space. So we moved down the treatment plant to a double wide trailer. A couple of the options that we have is one, staying there, or two, there is an option to rent space. The space would need to be made ADA compliant, obviously large enough to support the admin and utility of office staff. The only one that's available right now, to my knowledge, is 1271 Mission Street. It's an existing commercial space with similar monthly rent. Some modifications would be required which will either need to be paid for by the property owner or the district. We would have additional additional costs for office furnishings to make that space usable. One-time setup costs for internet, alarms, etc. Relocation setup costs are estimated between $20,000 and $40,000. Monthly costs between $2,500 and $3,000. Our existing office trailer rent is $2,200, just for reference. Support services for that additional site would be between $200 and $400 a month. With a potential overall cost increase per month of $500 to $1,200 a month, which is $6,000 to $14,400 annually. That doesn't include the one-time cost for setup. This space could potentially be